Good morning, everyone. After China, after Southern Europe and Northern Europe, and private places and the private collection, we are now moving to the Middle East to check what's happening there and when the destination is going to reopen. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and let's get started.
All right, so I am going to share my screen with you, and we are going to introduce our speakers. If you bear with me a little second, and can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, wonderful. So we have speakers from Turkey, Jordan, Israel, Dubai, and Oman with us. We have Mr. Christian Hirt, General Manager at Raffles, Istanbul in Turkey, Mr. Fadeel Wehbe, General Manager at Fairmont, Amman in Jordan, Ms. Katerina Brokhes, VP Sales at Alrov, speaking for David, Citadel, and Mamilla Hotels in Israel, Mr. Brett Armitage, Chief Commercial Officer at Kerzner, speaking for our partners One&Only, Royal Mirage, and One&Only The Palm in Dubai. And last but not least, Mr. Roko Palmic, Director of Sales and Marketing at Chedi Muscat in Oman. So if you're all ready, we are going to move on to our first question, which is, what is the general travel situation in your country and at your hotel? And we are going to try to go geographically and start maybe with Turkey. Christian, if you're ready to answer this question, please.
Thank you very much, and a warm greeting from Istanbul. Turkey has now slowly started to discuss how to get back to normal, how to get things up and running. Last Monday, the government announced new steps towards normalizations here. And it is very clear now that the normalization will be applied in 3 phases. Turkey, at the very beginning, when this pandemic started here in Turkey, restricted senior citizens above 65 and the youngest citizens under 20 from going out, and they were under lockdown from pretty much the end of March until now, and this will remain for sure until the end of this month. This was a very, very important action that they took, and something that is different to many other countries. On the 11th of May, the government allowed that shopping malls were able to reopen, barbershops, hairdressers, and so on. This was the first step to reopen things here in Turkey. And we are gradually now moving into the new normal under a lot of restrictions, as probably in many other countries. Here at Raffles Istanbul, we have 185 rooms and suites, and we have 66 residences for those who want to have an extended stay with us. And what we have done here at the very beginning, we installed a team of employees in the hotel, approximately 40 employees that have stayed since the end of March with our guests, completely isolated here in the hotel, and serving our guests in our residences for 24/7. Definitely something that has been highly appreciated by our residence guests. Also, the government has suspended any domestic and international flights. And if someone can come or is coming into Turkey, they would need to go under 14 days of quarantine. Turkish Airlines has announced that they will fly to 19 countries as of June. And that's another step into the normalization. We don't have any information yet on the quarantine restrictions, as this is obviously crucial that they need to ease. Otherwise, I don't think many people will travel. Summer is high season for us here in Turkey. And we expect this year limited leisure travel, followed by corporate travel probably towards the end of summer, early September. And I think something really to point out, and that is also important, is Istanbul, as you probably know, has opened a new airport last year. And it's a fantastic airport, fantastic facilities. And there they have introduced a lot of new standards, and they took it to a totally different level to protect any travelers coming in or connecting through Istanbul airport to any other destination in the world. All the detailed actions they have taken will be announced very, very soon in accordance with the opening of, or with the flight schedules of Turkish Airlines. Other than that, domestic travel has been permitted for most of the cities, so or for inner city travel has been allowed, and it's not allowed for Istanbul and Ankara for the moment, so no one can enter or leave from those two cities, but this will probably be eased very soon. For us here in Turkey, 28th of May is a major date, as this is probably the date when the government will start really to easing restrictions and to get more into a normalization. And yeah, we're all looking forward to the 28th of May.
Okay, so make sure you keep us informed on the situation. Thank you, Christian. Fadeel, are you ready to speak about Amman and Jordan?
Yes, hello everybody from Amman, Jordan. Well, similar maybe to what's happening elsewhere. On March 17th, we had the start of the lockdown in Amman. Jordan has been quite strict with the measures that are undertaken. So basically for almost a month, we were traveling, only allowed to travel for those people who have special permits. Otherwise, everybody was at home. Everything was closed, from malls to shops, and the hotels were restricted basically to receive guests who were coming back for quarantine. And in our case, we had a different scenario. There was a large Kuwaiti population in Amman, those who were studying here with the families, and those who were here on medical purposes, or those who have businesses and homes here. So the Kuwaiti embassy wanted to put them all under one roof. And we had quite a large number of rooms. They were not quarantined, but they were staying in the hotel. For that purpose, we had as well kept around 85 to 90 staff in the hotel permanently to take care of them. This was the scenario until the 25th of April, when the repatriation started back to Kuwait. We have 317 rooms in the hotel. We kept the hotel open. We currently have around 20 rooms who have been here in our apartments, and some hotel guests who got stuck here as well. They've been here for a long time, and we have around 45 people in the hotel that are taking care of them. The restrictions on movement has eased a little bit as of end of April. So now we have people traveling alternative dates with odd and even car plates, so it helps them to get around. Some of the shopping malls have opened, some of the shopping districts have opened. However, the curfew remains from 7 p.m. So you're allowed to move around from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 7 p.m. Basically you're at home. Hotels have not been allowed to reopen any of the facilities. We have had several meetings with the authorities here. The last one was yesterday. It's still unclear when they will allow us basically to receive, to open at least an outlet or the spa or the gym. But the decision hasn't come out yet. The airport remains closed for commercial travel. It's only flights that are coming back with Jordanians who are being repatriated, or for those countries who are taking people back to their countries from here. So it's still unclear as of yesterday, when will the airport open. There are rumors they will open in June. Some people say July, but really we have no indication on opening the airport or opening of any additional facilities at our hotels. However, once things do get better, I think the major business we will be looking at is people living in Jordan, whether they are Jordanians or expatriates. So we have a lovely property to come and attract them and stay at the hotel. However, we need to have some facilities open so that they can experience them as well. I think the regional travel will come back probably earlier. We are hoping, depending on the situation and when airports open. But we used to get a lot of business from the area around us, whether it's KSA, Lebanon, Egypt, and other GCC countries. I think this will be primarily coming back, whether it's for business or some leisure. However, other business, I think we're looking at probably towards the end of this year or early next year.
Oh, okay, so that's not really short term, it's more medium term.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as I said, there are no concrete plans that we have received yet on when the airport will open, when travel will be allowed, or when we are allowed to open facilities. So that's why we are just playing it by ear for now and waiting to get some more information from the local authorities.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Fadeel. We move on to Katerina in Israel.
Okay, good morning once again, everybody, and warmest regards from Jerusalem, from Israel. We have two nice properties, David Citadel Hotel and Mamilla Hotel. Both are located just several meters from the old city of Jerusalem. And as many other hotels here in the country, the main market of us are incoming market. In other words, the domestic travelers are only the very minor numbers from the whole business mixture of our hotels. So Israel was one of the first countries to close the borders. It was around 10th, and then the country was closed on the 15th of March. So with these actions made at this stage now, when we are in middle of May, more or less, as we can see now, we are after the crisis. Of course, with the restrictions and with the regulations and with the special protocols. However, restaurants will be open 1st of June. Of course, once again, as any other country in the world with the special restrictions. Malls are already malls are already open. And as from today, the education, not only the higher education, but also schools and kindergartens, they are back to normality. In other words, more or less without restrictions, kids are back to schools. So having said this, which is the optimistic picture for our hotels, of course, vast majority of the hotels in the country are closed. Because at this stage, although the airport is not closed, but mainly is operating on non-commercial flights, and we see that slowly we have British Airlines back, we have United, but still because of the quarantine measures and because the travelers are obliged to keep 14 days quarantine, obviously this is not the best situation for people to travel. So at this stage, we do not know when the regulations are changed. We hope it will be towards mid-July, maybe end of July. So, of course, this situation is not that clear, and all of us are waiting for some sort of decision from the government and from the Minister of Health, and then the final decision will be made when the hotels are open. In any case, the goal is to open the hotels mid-July, maybe only for domestic tourism, and our forecast that slowly we will receive incoming markets as from mid-September. At this stage, of course, because everything is flexible. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. We'll move now to Dubai with Brett.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Quentin, and the rest of the team at TravelMade. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this discussion today. Right, the situation in Dubai. As with the rest of the world, we were put into lockdown from mid-March, and in fairness to the Dubai authorities, they took this extremely seriously, and effectively we were placed under a 24-hour curfew, and for a number of weeks it was highly restricted in terms of our movement around the city. Indeed, to leave your place of residence, you needed to apply online for a permit, and the permit was only for essential need, going to the pharmacy, supermarket, etc., for 3 hours, and you're only allowed one permit every 3 days. So the Dubai government, and obviously it's fairly widely reported globally, took a very strong stance in terms of testing, creating a drive-through testing facility, and have taken a very proactive stance in terms of containing and managing the situation for residents here. In terms of, and I'll talk a little bit later when I think question 3 or 4, we talk about airlift, and I'll refrain to that point. In terms of what's happening currently within Dubai, obviously it's restricted to residents who are living here, because there's no flights in or out. So, at the beginning of Ramadan, these restrictions were slightly lifted, somewhat contrary to normally what happens during Ramadan, when things tend to go in the direction. So a number of restaurants opened, hotel restaurants have opened, both at One&Only the Palm and Royal Mirage, and also no bread-free kitchen.
Brett, if I may interrupt you, we don't hear you very well. I'm wondering if your microphone is covered, or if you could just get closer to it.
I'll try. Does that any better?
It sounds a bit better, yes.
A lot better, Brett. Thanks.
Thank you. So we have been operating restaurants since the beginning of Ramadan, albeit at 30% capacity, and with quite strict protocols around hygiene and masks and gloves and so forth for people coming into the hotels. None of our hotels have closed. Both Royal Mirage and the Palm have stayed open throughout. At Royal Mirage, we consolidated all of our guests into the residence. And this was a number of things: local residents who wanted to stay with us, and as some of the other panelists have mentioned, people who were stranded and couldn't get back, or chose not to leave, in fact. Now, as we've moved into Ramadan, we are available to local residents for staycations. So we've started marketing to the local market for weekend stays. It's a little restricted because swimming pools are closed, and a number of the outlets are closed. So, for example, gym facilities aren't available. But currently at Royal Mirage and the Palm, the hair salon is open, the mani-pedi is available, restaurants are open, and pretty much life as usual, except there's no swimming pools, and there was a very restricted alcohol service. So that's the current state of play in the hotels. And then around the city, malls are operating slightly reduced hours. We have a curfew after 10 p.m. at night. But for all intents and purposes, the city is getting back to some sort of normality, at least. Okay.
How about the airport and travel into?
Yeah, I was. There's a question later on, which I was going to talk about that when we talk about outbound travel from the region. So I can talk about that now.
Yeah, mostly inbound now. Can people come into Dubai?
The simple answer is no. There was repatriation flights. And again, as some of my colleagues mentioned on the panel, a number of residents have been stranded overseas because Emirates was grounded and then there was no flights in or out. So there have been flights, some flights in and some flights out, but one direction. And again, it's really the flight currently operates repatriation of residents or nationals, and for the purposes of people who are now either furloughed or unemployed that need to leave the country.
And
So
is there a date announced for opening to?
Well, you're preempting my later question, but yes, I can talk about it. I mean, Emirates have announced that from May the 21st, they will be operating to Chicago, Frankfurt, Heathrow, Madrid, Melbourne, Milan, Paris, Sydney, and Toronto. So it will, we are gearing up to start thinking about welcoming tourists to the destination from those countries. The question, of course, is what does that mean? What does it mean for me if I want to go to London in terms of my quarantine when I get there, and also what does it mean to me when I return to Dubai in terms of my quarantine when I return, and similarly how passengers coming in from Paris or London, what are the protocols on arrival into the country? And it's that bit that's unclear at the moment. But I think we've all seen that Emirates has taken a very, very strong stance in terms of the PPE for the crew, the cleaning protocols. And if you haven't seen the video, I can circulate the video in terms of the procedures at the airport for arriving passengers into Dubai, which have been enhanced in terms of disinfecting and testing. You would have seen as well that Emirates and Dubai Airport was one of the first airlines or airports that were able to do a 10-minute test at the airport before people were boarding flights. So we're very, very, very advanced. The tricky thing is the bipartite agreements between countries in terms of what happens on arrival and departure from the source or arrival country. But hotels open and operating, and flights, certainly Emirates as of the 21st of May. And I'm expecting Eid this weekend to see further lifting of some of the restrictions in the cities.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brett. We'll move to our last destination, to Oman, Muscat. Roko, what can you tell us about your hotel and your destination?
So sugar comes at the end. Thank you to the TravelMate team to invite me to this webinar. My name is Roko Palmic. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing of the Chedi Muscat, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you some infos about Oman itself and the Chedi Muscat. So in Oman itself, the country started to get locked down mid of March and all our surrounding countries. At the moment, still all restaurants, all malls are closed, so all barber shops, everything. Also, only the supermarkets are open. Also, the next thing is that there's a lockdown of Muscat, the capital itself. It was prolonged until now, 29th of May. I think it's similar to the situation in Turkey or in Jordan and Dubai, because the government wants to avoid the family gatherings during the Eid holidays, which is now coming next month. The hotel itself, the Chedi Muscat, as we're entering a low season now, we have temporarily suspended our normal hotel operations until 14th of September. So we will open on 14th of September again in 2020. The airport is still closed. The international airport and all the borders are closed. And what is also the most important thing for us, that the issuing of online tourist visas is also not available. What we are assuming that the normal cross-border airport will come latest in July or mid or end of June. Also some airlift coming to Muscat. The measures at the airport, as mentioned by our colleague in Dubai, it's similar like in Dubai airport. They started already to do the temperature screening points, the sanitizing cabins are installed, physical distancing and check-in and security is required. And of course, also 4 hours before departure, you should be on the airport as well.
Okay, so not even for domestic travel, you're...
So it's only for the flights, the only flights what we got here are domestic flights. It's only one to Salalah down in the south. And aircraft which are arriving to Muscat Airport are mainly cargo. Because mainly cargo, it's no passenger flights. Or there are some flights out of the country, which are organized by some embassies, different embassies, to get a resident out if they want to go home.
All right. Thank you, Roko. We are ready to move on to our next question. what are the COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 measures that your hotels will be taking once you can accept guests again? And we'll go back to Christian in Istanbul.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we have invested quite a lot the last 2 months into our property. Not only that, we went through a very, very detailed renovation program to ensure that the property is really top-notch once travelers are returning. We also invested heavily into any safety measures that we had to take. We invested into a UV sanitation system that is connected to our air conditioning system. We also invested into thermal cameras controlling every entrance of the hotel, front and back of house. We also developed a new safety and hygiene concept for our hotel, and Accor and Bureau Veritas went into a partnership, and they launched a label based on sanitary measures, and they certify, or Bureau Veritas certifies Accor properties based on a certain set of standards that they have developed. Additionally, we obviously follow anything that is coming from the government, plus the standards of Accor Bureau Veritas, and then our own standards, which we're going to put on top, such as the UV sanitation, the thermal cameras. We also invested into airborne disinfection device or devices with which we disinfect the rooms after guests have left. We also keep all our accommodation rooms 72 hours non-occupied. The guest rooms are never occupied next to each other. Per floor, we have 13 rooms, and we only occupy half of them maximum. We provide a protection kit with hand sanitizers, masks, and so on in the rooms for our guests. We also put a lot of, we have an app on which, or through which you can order private dining. You can make bookings in the spa once the spa is open. You can see your restaurant menus once you go to the restaurants, and you can basically facilitate everything from this app that you can also download on your own device. So you don't need to use any iPads that we provide in the rooms, or the telephones, or anything like that, if that's your wish. Moreover, we're also controlling a lot our partners with whom we work, and we ensure that they are following our standards, and we wouldn't work with anyone who is not following those. I think the key here is that all the precautions we are taking, and all the standards we have to put in place, that they don't temper the experience the guest has in the hotel, and we'll try obviously to do this, to introduce everything in a very subtle way. Yeah, that's pretty much what we do here at Raffles Istanbul, or what we're planning to do once guests are coming back, hopefully as of the end of this month.
So you are prepared for them. That's good.
Yeah, because we always have been open. We have a team here. We heavily work on all of our precautions and actions and so on, and that helps us a lot in the way forward. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Christian. We move on to Fadeel. What measures are you taking at Fairmont Amman?
A lot of measures, actually, similar to what Christian they are implementing at the Raffles. Obviously, the certification from Bureau Veritas will go a long way with our guests to assure them that the hotel meets the standards and requirement of safety measures. Accor as well has partnered with AXA, which gives comfort to our guests in all our hotels once they all open at 5,000 hotels, 110 venues, countries, and 40 brands. It'll be a phone call away or a touch away if any guests feel that they want a medical advice or a medical consultant in whichever country they're in, they're able to get it. So I think this also goes a long way in terms of reassuring guests that they can get the advice that they need, and that the hotel as well meets the standards put in by Bureau Veritas. We have been open, and we have been obviously receiving a lot of guidelines from Accor, and some of it we are already implementing. Some of it has been is on waiting to arrive to the hotel, as we have also done a lot of purchasing in that area. But the tunnel where we have a UV sanitizer at the entrance for both guests and staff is already in place. Thermal cameras are already in place. We ensure that we already started putting the social distancing in terms of the spacing when guests come to the hotel, whether coming eventually when we open the restaurants or coming to check in. We have plexiglass already in place as well for the reception desk to minimize the actual contact. Those are at the reception, concierge, guest relations, and our Fairmont Gold Lounge. So at least that as well helps to protect guests and make sure that the social distancing is applied. We have even sorted out the meeting rooms. We don't expect big meetings to come back soon. Our smaller meeting, maybe on a more local or regional nature, between 20 to 40 people. Again, the setups, keeping in mind the social distancing required. Sanitization machines all over the hotel. All guests will be required, obviously, gloves and masks, and we will provide those as well at the entrance of the hotel in case they don't have them. We have also introduced, as per Accor standard as well, the doorknob, whereby if you don't want staff to come into your room, you want just to collect your bed sheets and towels, we place them outside at the door, and you can take care of yourself inside. So these are some of the measures currently in place. We do have a team at the hotel. We have regular updates and meetings, trainings taking place. So eventually, when things open up a bit, we are ready.
Wonderful, thank you, Fadeel. Katerina, we're back to you and Israel.
Okay, thank you. My colleagues have actually already mentioned the majority of measures which we are implementing as from the very beginning of the crisis. Now, we have a dedicated team here in the hotel operating the process, in charge of the process, and collecting all the data from the international chains and working very close with the management. For our two hotels, we have all in all 600 rooms. So in terms of our human resources, our colleagues, it's also more than important, of course, to provide safe and healthy environment. So the step by step, the process is almost there. Of course, the social distance, of course, the safety kit for our guests, masks, gloves, and all the necessary materials. We are working very hard implementing all the new digital systems which provide us in this unusual situation to conduct also the safety and new regulations, but to keep the upscale luxury service that our hotels are known for. So the regulation of Israeli Ministry of Health are very clear. We are very, direct and straight with these regulations. As an example, of course, we are keeping at least 48 hours between the checkout of our guests and the new check-in, and the procedures in terms of the reception staff. And of course, we will try, and we are making all the necessary digital services to ensure that check-in, check-out, and concierge services can be made online and not without actual connection with our staff. So this is the process we have. As I have mentioned before, we have to implement all the measures up until beginning of July. So we will make all the materials, and we will send, of course, to our colleagues and to all the travel agents and to our guests to ensure that our hotels are prepared and up to the high standards of new era. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. Brett, we're back to you and Dubai.
Thank you. Nice to be back. So really reiterating a lot of what the other panelists have said. I mean, the difference in our case, of course, is that both hotels are operating. So we are in a live, real situation with actual guests. So we've had to move quite quickly in terms of looking at how we've implemented new protocols and what we've done. So I mean, it goes without saying, in any case, the challenge which all of us in the ultra luxury space face is, one and only, and staying in one of our hotels is all about high touch and high engagement with our guests. So how do you still continue to deliver an ultra luxury experience, and yet also at the same time respecting social distancing and the new protocols that are put in place? So that's really been our challenge, to sort of navigate that and make sure that the guest experience isn't affected, yet also giving guests the assurance that we maintain expectations of high levels of hygiene. So what does that look like in practical terms? So I mean, obviously it goes without saying, masks and gloves, that's just, we all live with that now, and that's just a given. So we've worked, within the World Health Organization rules and policies to interpret that and apply that into our environments. We've also partnered with Diversi, which is obviously a global cleaning company and products. But we've also worked with Henri Chenot. So we've been partnering with Chenot as our wellness practitioner over the last couple of years, and later this year we're launching the first in Montenegro. But we've really drawn on their expertise in the area of wellness and health to endorse what we're doing and how we're presenting, the new guest experience. So, in terms of staff, all of our staffs have been trained on the new protocols and what is COVID-19. The tricky thing here, of course, in Dubai, and my colleague on the panel in Oman faces the same thing. We don't have a local resident workforce. We house staff members. So when we're talking about these health protocols,
sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt again. We're losing you a bit, Brett, again.
Okay.
I hear you very well. And may I ask the others who are not speaking to mute their phones or themselves, so that we don't have interference? Thank you.
So one of the issues that we face here in Dubai is that we run two hotels, the hotel for our guests, and also we accommodate all of our staff members as well. So we've had to apply new protocols for our staff accommodation also. So that's involved lots of training and building awareness from our staff members in terms of A, how they're living, and then B, how they're looking after our guests. We've appointed a dedicated COVID-19 health and safety coordinator in all of our hotels, who reports directly to the GM to ensure that we're enforcing these policies and how we're applying this. Clearly, as my colleagues have said, increased frequency of cleaning, new standards of cleaning in the rooms, like they mentioned, the timing between rooms and how we occupy rooms, how frequently occupy rooms. Each room will come with a PPE kit, as well as the opportunity, if guests desire, to have their luggage sanitized on arrival. As I said, because we're already operating, we've had to apply new protocols in our restaurants. So the Dubai restriction is that you can only have 30% capacity in any of your restaurants, and obviously around the beach area, a 2-meter distance between each of the sun lounges. So all of this is in place and all this is happening. But one of the things as One&Only that we introduced across the brand over the last something which we had in Palmyra for decades, to be honest, is this sort of hand-on-heart gesture, which we rolled out as a sort of signature across the One&Onlys over the last 18 months in any case. So rather than shaking everybody's hand, and that was something we'd moved away from anyway. So our colleagues are already quite used to this sort of hand-on-heart gesture, which I think is quite a nice way of still welcoming our guests, but not shying away from handshakes. So in a nutshell, that's what we've done. And then, from a technical point of view, there's infrared processes, UV stuff, temperature checks on arrival, but very discreet. And we've embedded heat thermal cameras across all of our resorts. But we've tried to make sure that it's as discreet as possible. I saw some videos circulating, some hotels in Dubai where it was almost like walking through a car wash as you were going into the hotel, and they were spraying guests with disinfectant as they arrived into the hotel. Well, this is absolutely nonsense, and was debunked by the World Health Organization as something which you shouldn't be doing. So beware of that as you look at booking hotels, because that's absolutely not required. And potentially quite dangerous to guests as you're spraying disinfectant into their faces or whatever. So none of that, and just a very subtle elevation of what we were already doing in terms of high standards of cleanliness and sanitation.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Brett. Roko, I know you're not yet open, but I imagine that you're preparing.
Yes. So as you mentioned, we are not open. We are reopening on 14th of September, but the upcoming months we are mainly using to improve our future guest experience, the so-called COVID guest experience. We're also focusing on our summer maintenance program, and we do train the staff and the team to maintain and develop our service, of course, the COVID service. So we are planning, or we're doing already, we installed sanitizing station all around the property. The property is 21 acres big, so it's a lot of space, even outside, inside. We created a very unique and very tough sanitizing and disinfection plan for all public areas, and especially the guest rooms after checkout, as one of our colleagues mentioned before. We established also a new COVID SOP for the spa and the gym, and also training the staff accordingly to that. We're also evaluating down the new COVID seating plans in our F&B outlets to, of course, with all this social distancing measures. We reset the whole setup of our sunbeds around the pools and also at the beach itself. And also we are creating a separate COVID, it sounds a little bit, guest experience handbook. So it's also that the guests are aware what are the new regulations entering our hotel, and we would kindly ask everybody to follow these regulations to keep safe for all our guests and our staff members as well. And that's it from our side.
Okay, great. Thank you, Roko. So we're done with question number 2. We move on to question number 3. What measures are you taking to ensure business flexibility, both business to business and B2B2C? So we'll start with Christian.
Thank you. Yeah, for us, we came up with an offer. When we designed the offer, it was for us of paramount importance that we provide absolutely total flexibility, and that's why we have extended the cancellation period to 6 p.m. on the arrival day. So total flexibility to the traveler. We also added to the regular benefits the traveler-made guests are getting. We added a 500 euro hotel credit if you stay more than 3 nights with us. In particular, in the summer, usually the average length of stay is about 3.5. If you stay 3 nights with us, get another 500 euro hotel credit that you can spend on anything in the hotel. And then there are the usual benefits of the guaranteed upgrade, of the guaranteed late checkout, the enrollment into our private membership club, and we are extending a 15% commission on the rates.
Okay, great. That's very generous. Thank you. Fadeel, how about Fairmont Amman? Fadeel, you might be muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
No,
good. You can hear me now?
Yes. Wonderful.
Yeah. All right. We've extended a 6-hour cancellation policy instead of the 12. We have as well increased commission to 15%. In addition to the regular benefits that already Traveler Made enjoys, we have initiated a, regardless of the length of stay, a $100 credit voucher to be used in any of our F&B outlets during the stay, 2 complimentary pieces of laundry, and a 20% discount on spa treatment. Obviously, then you have the room upgrade that comes with what we already have in place. Basically, this is what we have now worked on.
Just quickly, how about your rates? Are you going to keep your rates at the same level for 2021? And how long will you keep your cancellation policies so flexible?
We are not planning any increase of rates for next year, and the cancellation policy will be in place until the end of March next year.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Fadeel. Katerina, we're back at you in Israel.
Okay, so our plans are, first of all, we have amended all the cancellation policy throughout the year, except of high Jewish holidays and Christmas. So only 2 seasons, the cancellation policy is different. So throughout the year, it will be 24 hours. It's a little bit problematic for us to keep the cancellation policy on the same days, as my colleagues mentioned before, 6 p.m. the same day. So we decided to make it 24 hours. Now, with our bad experience during the recent period with all the non-refundable rates and refunds, and I'm sure you went through the same process, we decided not to use non-refundable rates, at least for 1 year, till the situation with COVID, the pandemic, is still unclear. In terms of the rates, it's around 15% decrease of the rates throughout the year. Well, once again, depending on the season, but the average is more or less 15%. In terms of our special deals for Travel Made and to our agents, we are working now on the marketing program to enlarge the benefits, and it will be upgrade. It will be the definite upgrade confirmed upon the reservation and not upon the check-in. But we are still in process. It could be the 3rd or the 4th night free, depending once again on the season. But as far as I can see, at least in Israel, more or less the tendency is to decrease the rates at least till April 2021. So, of course, if this is the tendency of the market, we are part of the market, so we are taking part. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. Brad, how about One&Only? What are your conditions for the trip?
So we've done a total overhaul, actually, of all of our terms and conditions, not only just for the Dubai properties, but across the entire One&Only portfolio. And I think this has given us all a bit of a wake-up call to rethink how we want to work with our travel partners, and also how our consumers are looking at us as the travel industry. I mean, it's well documented, and particularly, unfortunately, we all get tarred with the same brush. But the difficulty of consumers getting refunds from tour operators has been particularly challenging, and tour operators are clinging on to deposits for dear life, because actually it is their lifeline, and it's what's keeping many of the tour operators afloat right now, is holding people's deposits. Now, obviously, with Travel Made, it's a slightly different scenario because we're dealing with travel agents, but nonetheless, we all, the consumer doesn't realise exactly what cancellation policies mean and how they get applied. So in the short term, for One&Only the Palm and Reethi and Royal Mirage, and indeed across the entire One&Only portfolio, we've sort of thrown the doors open between now and the end of September. Any existing bookings or any new bookings can be made or cancelled with total flexibility. And that's been extremely well received, to try and encourage some new bookings, so people are, once we've got flights and so forth, but moreover for people who have existing bookings, giving them the ability to rebook with confidence. Now, in terms of the longer view, there was a couple of things that I was quite insistent on in terms of how we wanted to operate moving forward, and it was just to make things a whole lot simpler and a whole lot easier. And I've got some of my colleagues on this call that would be quite pleased to hear this. But essentially what we've done is streamlined all of our policies across the entire portfolio, and for any of us that work with multiple properties, over time things get applied and added in, which really don't make much sense, but seemingly a good idea at the time. So we've stripped back all of our policies to the absolute bare minimum, so whether it's kids' ages, extra bed policies, the whole gamut we've reviewed to make things a whole lot easier. But obviously when it comes to cancellation, booking terms, that's been the most, the area that we've given most focus to. So for Royal Mirage and the Palm in the summer, it's same-day booking and cancellation. It's for our cancellation policy, which is pretty standard. Outside of the summer, and this will apply across all of the One&Only hotels, it's a one-night deposit at the time of booking, which is fully refundable, and cancellation up to 7 days prior to arrival. The only exception to that is festive at Reethi in the Maldives. But this is the new world, and this is the new expectation of all of our customers and guests, because sadly, so many have been dreadfully inconvenienced and hurt with punitive cancellation policies and the difficulty of getting their money back. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible, and I hope for Traveller Made it'll make it easier for yourselves to understand how One&Only is working, not only with the Dubai properties but across the brand. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brett. Roko, how about you? As of September, are you already accepting reservations? What are your terms?
So for those who have now previously booked or had the reservation at the Chedi Muscat, all deposits, even if it's advance purchase or whatever, and prepayments will be fully refunded. It's all in the process. Then we have the offer, if you book newly or rebook your existing reservation until 15th of September, and you stay until end of October, you get a 15 Omani Riyal food and beverage credit, which is around $40, and which is a nice, very successful offer, what we have now until end of June, that you purchase a voucher of Omani 30 Riyals, this is $78, but you don't buy a book, you don't buy a room, you buy nothing, you buy only a discount. Yeah? So you buy a discount, you get for Omani 30 Riyals, you get a discount for 30% of your future stay bill. But this offer is available until end of June. So you do book nothing, you don't commit to nothing, you just buy a discount. And this is quite, must say, successful. And then our guests, they get a reply, they don't have to hurry. You have your discount, and whenever you're ready to book us, please send us the voucher.
Okay, how does that work with the travel designers?
So the travel designers, they can purchase the voucher online on our website. And of course, there's a minimum stay of 3 nights. If you book until this voucher, you have to book a minimum stay of 3 nights. And the guest itself gets a discount on the future stay bill. So it's room, F&B, spa, whatever.
So they could use it for any guest, for any client.
Yes, yes. And of course, they also get the Traveller Made amenities.
All right. How about the cancellation policies for the future bookings?
So we are very flexible, I must say, as all our partners as well. We have even rebooked until even Easter next year. So it's we are very flexible with that.
All right. Thank you, Roko. And thank you, everyone, for answering this question. We move now on to our before last question, and that concerns, since all of you live in the countries where your hotels are based, just some information about the citizens or the nationals of your country. What can they do and where can they travel? It helps us have a better view. Christian?
Yeah, I think we are expecting quite a big domestic travel volume this summer season. There's still quite a lot of concerns in terms of traveling of the locals or traveling abroad. Currently, there is no chance to travel abroad. Any outbound travel is basically non-existent at the moment. But as I said this earlier, on the 28th of May, that's the turning point. And as of early June, Turkish Airlines has put on flights to 19 countries and 23 destinations. But again, if someone travels, it's really very much dependent on the quarantine restrictions. that haven't been eased in most of the destinations. Domestic travel as of the 28th of May is allowed. So Turkish Airlines is flying domestically, and there will be no restrictions. So therefore, we see expect quite a lot of domestic travel. And I think once things have eased, we will probably see that locals here will travel to, will take some short flights, short to medium long flights.
Okay, thank you. So you will know more on that as of the 28th of May.
Yeah, 28th of May, and then obviously as soon as we know how would be the quarantine restriction look like in the other countries, which is absolutely key for anyone traveling. But until the 28th of May, there is no outbound travel.
No visibility. All right, thank you, Christian. Fadeel, how about Jordanians? Are they able to travel anywhere?
At the moment, not, as the airport is closed, and basically we don't have any idea when it will open again. The repatriation of Jordanians from outside Jordan into Jordan has started. They expect that they still have around 45,000 people to bring back in, so they won't expect to finish this for September. We do hope that the airport opens earlier than this. But so far, really, if there are restrictions of quarantine in destinations that they frequent, obviously they will not be traveling, even when the airport opens. We will have to wait and see, and how the other countries ease off the arrivals of non-nationals into their countries. But I don't think there will be much travel happening for September outbound.
All right, thank you, Fadeel. Katerina, what about the Israelis?
Okay, Israelis at this stage, domestically, we can travel to any destination, but as you might know, Israel is a very small country and people are traveling a lot usually. So our expectations are that as soon as quarantine restrictions will be not here anymore, and depending of course on the second country, that Israelis will travel from mid-July, beginning of August, of course, if and when it is allowed. So as I have mentioned before, there are some flights already operating from June, like British, for example, United, and the national company, LAL, is not still operating the non-commercial commercial flights. But as far as we can see, and the forecast is that during the summer period later on, of course, end of July, beginning of August, at least for the countries here in the Mediterranean area, Greece, maybe Turkey, when and if the restrictions are not there yet, yes, people will travel. From the very beginning, it will be close by. No one knows what happens with the EU and when the restrictions will not be there anymore, and of course to US, but at least to the resorts in Greece and Turkey, yes, we expect that the people will travel soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. Brad, how about you? You have hotels in different destinations. Do you see any bookings from Dubai-based people to other hotels?
Yeah, you're very familiar. Dubai is a small emirate. It forms, the United Arab Emirates. So, as I said, we're already seeing local travel within Dubai into our hotels, and also within the Emirates, as people want to travel and get away from confinement in their homes. So between Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, Abu Dhabi, and so forth, that's already happening. We move into the summer months, it's getting warmer. So for both nationals, Emiratis and expats, it's usually the mass exodus. So I'm confident that as soon as Emirates starts flying, and as I said, we're expecting flights to commence as of May the 21st, I would expect to see strong outbound travel. The question, as all of the panelists have said, is, well, that's great, but what happens when I land in London? And the headline in the Times, UK Times, is 14-day quarantine if you arrive into the UK, which isn't particularly helpful. So, and we also, I'm not entirely clear also in terms of what the restrictions are on arrival. Currently, arrival into Dubai is a mandatory Dubai Health Authority test, and then a 14-day quarantine period. So that's going to be the tricky thing, is how travelers in and out of all destinations are going to navigate the quarantine regulations. I also understand, for inbound, Lufthansa has announced that they're going to start flying into Dubai as of the 7th of June, and they'll be flying across 106 destinations. So I think there is optimism that travel will happen, and certainly if you ask me specifically about UAE, we're well known as travellers, both expats like myself and nationals. The question is where and how. But other than that, I expect strong travel, provided those two questions are answered.
All right. So for now, there's still the quarantine in place upon return, should anybody travel abroad.
Exactly that. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Brett. Roko?
So we assume that the normal cross-border to Oman and the airport will open mid of June, end of June, latest July. And as we hear around that people, if they have a valid negative COVID test results from the country of origin, not older than 48 hours, they could enter. We know in Europe, there are already destination airports like Frankfurt or Vienna. You do COVID test on arrival, you do COVID test on departure. It's around 190 euro. And this COVID test on departure is valid for your entering country, so wherever you travel. If not, then of course a 14 days quarantine is required. The Omani COVID Supreme Committee, they have some hotels under contracted, so you are in a holiday inn for 14 days and then you can get out. At the moment it looks like that. And in concern of travel outbound, I'm not sure, or what I hear from the local people, also I think it's a general in the GCC, that the Omani or GCC residents will not travel so much to their favorite crowded places to Europe this summer. I'm not sure if they are happy to go to crowded London, to crowded Paris or Côte d'Azur, because they are more afraid, and I think they will, which is also good for us in the Middle East, they will stay in the region. They will not move for summer to their usual crowded destination in Europe.
Thank you, Roko. We're at our last question, and this is more of a personal question from your experience over this past 2 months. Can you see any global new trends that are emerging out of this crisis situation? Christian?
Yeah, I think the sanitary and hygiene aspect will not go away, and will become more and more important. And I think it is really all about how we apply this and still provide a top ultra luxury experience to our guests. That is absolutely key. And the definition around luxury will probably slightly change as the aspect of safety and hygiene becomes much more important. What we also see here as a trend, but that's probably more in the short, there is at the moment quite good demand around our branded residences. Probably for the reason that if you stay in our branded residences, you can avoid public areas as there are dedicated elevators all the way to the car park, etc. They provide more space, and I think that's something we probably will see more and more in the future to come. But for sure, for the moment, that's definitely something travelers are looking at.
Towards more privacy.
More privacy, yes, just to avoid, or just to have the option to avoid public spaces in general. If you are staying, obviously, for an extended stay, I don't think it makes sort of sense for a short stay.
Right. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you very much.
Any learning from your side, from this situation so far?
I think we will see probably once travel comes back, people or guests will be concerned mainly when they look at reviews about certifications, sanitization, cleanliness before they look at anything else, feedback from other guests who stayed. I think this will probably be a key decision maker where they stay and where they decide to book. how seriously the hotel takes this aspect. In addition, the concern obviously being maybe a predominantly business and a corporate hotel, is that we've seen over the past few months people conducting lots of business through Zoom, Skype, or other measures, and will that impact the overall meeting travelers, that they can conduct their business now they've learned or they're accustomed to conduct their business from distance? How can we overcome this as well to make people come back again to our hotels? So yeah, it's I mean, I don't think there is one correct answer. These are testing times for everybody. I don't think we all know what is coming next or how we're dealing with it. We're trying to be as proactive and as flexible and as accommodating as possible. But definitely there'll be some trends that will take some time to change in people's minds and their mindset and how they travel, when they travel, and if they can do without traveling. Especially, as I said, maybe leisure is different, but if you are more of as well a business hotel, then the impact will be probably greater.
Okay, so I see that you're thinking more of negative trends rather than positive trends.
Well, it's just that I think it will change. It must just take some time, especially that people did conduct their business over the past few months from far and have been connecting more than 5, 10, 20 people in a meeting. And I think the results were okay. It's nothing like face-to-face, but if people look at the economy, it's been tough on a lot of companies, individuals. So that's also helps them to regroup or to save until things get back to normal. So I think it will take a while for the business traveler or the business meetings as well.
Thank you, Fadeel. I imagine, Katerina, that you have more leisure travelers. Any emerging trend that you can observe so far?
Yes, we have more leisure, but having said that, during last years we have quite a good number of both incentive groups, huge incentive groups, and international conferences, medical, pharmaceutical, etc. So I think for at least 2021 and maybe 2022, we will not have these groups, depending on the regulations. But even though, if everything is, let's say, back to normality in a way, I can hardly imagine these conferences in these amounts and these sizes will be relevant anymore. As my colleagues have mentioned before, it will be something, maybe domestic, 20, 50 guests, 10, 15, 20 rooms, and the rest, I think, will be done remoted and online. So this market, I cannot foresee will be back soon. In terms of the large groups, and we have upscale, high Christian pilgrimage, and of course Jewish organizations also with large groups, huge amounts, mega missions, I also can hardly imagine they're back soon. So as you have mentioned before, yes, it will be individual travelers, small families, in a bit of different world with not full occupancies, both because of less demand and of the new regulations. Obviously, if you have to keep between 24 to 48 hours between checkout and check-in, you cannot run the full hotel, even if you have demand for 100% for specific day. Let's pray it will come soon. So we have already mentioned before flexibility cancellation policy. It's obvious for all of us, and I think the consumer and of course our colleagues and partners, the travel agent, travel advisors, anticipated from all of us. The non-refundable policy that I have mentioned before, deposits, everything we are reconsidering because it changed, and anticipation of the market are very clear, and of course we are trying to adjust ourselves to the expectations of our guests and partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. Brett, does One&Only, have you been able at One&Only to identify new trends?
Oh, most definitely, yes. I think it was interesting, the Dubai properties, it was the villas and suites which sold out first. So to echo the sentiment of my colleague, on the panel, it's going to be about space, it's going to be about privacy, and the idea that you're not in with the crowd. So anything that's got a private pool is going to be in high demand. So to all the travel advisors that are listening to this, I think do your research, really understand what offerings hotels have got which offer either private villas, private pools, suites with private pools, whatever it might be. That's very much in demand. We could have driven a lot more business into the Maldives. We had a lot of demand from guests with private jets. And unfortunately the airport was closed, so we couldn't they couldn't access the destination, but we obviously we Rithira and the Maldives anyway. You're on a small island, you've got big villas, private pools, lots of space. So those sorts of destinations, that product I think is likely to do better. But again, private jets are coming up a lot in a lot of the requests that we're getting, and we're certainly looking at what we can do better with private jet companies. So again, for the travel agent community on this call, look at what that means. I mean, the other thread which we've all heard this morning on this discussion is just uncertainty. So this pushes more and more focus onto the travel agent in terms of understanding the value and the role of the travel agent, but being thoroughly switched on in terms of what and how and where and when people can travel to and from certain destinations. So that's the biggest question right now. Once we've got flights back in the air. Other than that, I think. And there's the bottom line on your slide here is I don't think we can underestimate the economic crisis. It's ravaged, all of us, I'm sure, have made sacrifices, and we are all rethinking what our business looks like. So it's going to be a very long recovery, and I think anybody who thinks otherwise is probably not planning their business accordingly. So from our perspective, we're looking at a long recovery. We will obviously be making adjustments to our pricing, but this isn't going to be a price-led recovery. This is going to be a customer sentiment recovery, but moreover, there is going to be structural changes to a lot of economies. And that is the big challenge which everybody, not only within travel, but in every industry is going to face. What does that look like, and how long is that going to take for that recovery to come back?
All right, thank you. What you've said echoes what we've heard in our private collection, virtual world tours. So regarding charters, private jet, villas. So it's something that we've managed to identify as well. Thank you, Brett. Roko, are you preparing for any new trends when you reopen the hotel in September?
What we see now already, I must say, so these times of sanitizing and disinfection will follow us. And what is interesting, that all of us in our industry, we jump into a boat on the same time, but we're jumping off the boat separately. So each by one in a different time zone and different months of the year. But in general, it's the interest also not only in the Chedi Muscat, but the GHM hotels in general. We have also opening a property in Maldives now. That interest in secluded, private, not crowded destinations and properties preferred. The social distancing will be still a topic for the next upcoming years. We see on property at the Chedi Muscat as well, the first requests are for the private pools private villas, and also properties in general with private villas or more private beach access. They will be the preferred choice of the guest or of the traveler. And as Brett already mentioned, also with private jets, we have requests to have a private jet aviation in Oman. And I think also in general that these times everybody gets reset and thinking about the importance of life in our world and the environment, that people will more choose sustainable, business-driven and green and environmental friendly hotels will be the preferred choice by the traveler as well. That's from my side.
Okay, thank you, Roko, and thank you, everyone. We have answered all our questions now. I shall stop sharing my screen and just take the opportunity to ask Quentin to wrap up this session. From my side, thank you all.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fadeel, Katerina, Brett, and Roko from Istanbul, from Amman, Israel, Dubai, and Oman. This was very insightful. It resonates a lot with what we've been hearing the last 3 weeks progressively, the reopening. We said a month ago that countries were going to start first be traveling within their own country. Domestic market was going to be key. It is still important. We also thought that June would be a month of reopening for many countries, which is happening actually. And that July, August, there would be some reopening regional first and potentially extra regional meaning continental or subcontinental. So this is actually happening. That's a very good news. We start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Business will be back. As Brett said, it's not going to be a super fast recovery. There's a massive crisis that's been hitting all of us, including the super wealthy travelers. But we can feel that there is a need, a crave for traveling, for spending holidays, for spending more money and spending more time on holiday this summer. So it's all very good news. And at TravelMate, we're trying, thanks to this initiative, the Virtual World Tour, but a new initiative coming soon called the 2020 Restart, where you guys will have the possibility to fill in as often as you want a questionnaire where you will put the date of opening and all the different kind of measures. You will see that in the questionnaire. I hope it's going to be out at the end of the week or beginning of next week. And it's going to be key for you guys to accelerate time to market. There is demand. The question is how to make all the travel agencies aware about when you will be open and to make sure that they can find all the necessary information to advertise to their clients. More than ever, I think these ultra wealthy clients will be using travel agencies instead of using other, fast booking intermediaries or doing on their own, because they will need some advice. And your collaboration with the trade and with the TravelMate member agency is fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's keep in touch to know exactly how you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone again for your participation, and have a great week ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.